An entire army is being shot to pieces, and it does nothing. 15,000 men marching down a coast under a sky full of arrows, some of them walking with shafts buried in their own backs. And every one of them is under a single order: do not fight back. This is the finest heavy cavalry in Christendom. One charge could break the army shooting at them, and their king has forbidden it. Because 4 years ago, on a hill called Hattin, knights exactly like these charged. It ended with thousands dead or captured. It cost the crusaders Jerusalem. Across the dust, Saladin is trying to make them do it again. The whole day is one trap, built around one mistake. This is Arsuf, September 1191. The question isn't whether these men can beat Saladin, it's whether they can survive a whole day without swinging back, and still find the 1 second where breaking the rule wins the battle instead of losing it. The day before, the crusaders had to march through a wood just north of Arsuf, and every officer knew what a wood meant. At Hattin, Saladin had set the dry grass alight and choked an army to death in the smoke. One torch here, and this forest becomes a furnace with 15,000 men trapped inside it. They marched through, holding their breath, and nothing happened. Saladin let them pass, which should have been a relief. It wasn't. It meant he wanted them out in the open, on the plain before Arsuf, where he had something worse waiting. September 7th, 10 kilometers of open ground between the army and the safety of the city. At 11 in the morning, the harassment that had lasted for days turned into something else entirely. Saladin threw his full weight against the rear of the column, arrows in sheets, horsemen closing to almost touching distance, then wheeling away before a blade could reach them. The rear guard took the worst of it. The Knights Hospitaller, packed at the back of the line, dying where they stood and forbidden to strike back. The Grand Master of the Hospitallers rode up the column to Richard twice and begged him, "Let us charge, or there will be nothing left of us to charge with." And twice Richard gave the same answer, "Not yet. Hold the line. Wait for the signal. So why endure it? Why bleed all day and never strike back? Walk with the infantry for a moment. The sun burns white overhead. Arrows hammer your shield. The man beside you falls, and before the line can open, you step into his place. Every arrow that finds you is one that never reaches a horse. That is the design. This is not a marching column. It is a moving fortress. Spearmen and crossbowmen form the wall. Knights and war horses wait behind it, protected for one decisive moment. Because Richard cannot waste his cavalry, release it fresh into an enemy fully committed, and it can tear the battle open. Release it too early, at men already giving ground, and the charge spends itself in dust. The horses tire, the formation opens, the advantage is gone. That is Saladin's game. Provoke the charge, retreat before it, then close around it. At Hattin, a crusader army had been drawn away from water, exhausted, surrounded, and destroyed. Richard will not let that happen again, so he waits. The infantry take the arrows, the fortress holds. But Saladin does not need the whole wall to collapse. He needs one crack. If this is the kind of history you want more of, subscribe, because the line was about to break. Just not the way anyone planned. It started with two men, two Hospitaller knights who simply could not take another arrow standing still. They spurred out of the line, and the moment they moved, the whole rear guard went with them. 3 squadrons, hundreds of knights, the exact mistake Saladin had spent the entire day trying to force. By every rule of this war, they had just killed themselves. Except this time the trap was empty. Saladin's right wing had been trying to provoke that charge for so long and been refused so many times that when it finally came, they weren't ready for it. The curtain didn't open. The charge landed. Full weight, fresh horses on men who expected to be baiting, not fighting. Saladin's right wing buckled, and on the crest of the column, Richard the Lionheart had one heartbeat to decide. His knights had broken his order. If he did nothing, they'd be surrounded and butchered in minutes, exactly as planned. If he committed his whole army to save them, and it went wrong, he'd lose everything on a mistake he never sanctioned. He chose in that heartbeat. He turned the accident into a battle plan. Richard didn't try to call his men back. He sent the rest of them in behind them, in order. He loosed the Templars and the Breton and Angevin knights against Saladin's left, and then he put himself at the head of the Norman and English horse and led them straight into the center. All the rage those men had swallowed for 2 days went out in a single wave. But here is the one thing that made Arsuf the opposite of Hattin. At Hattin, the knights charged, missed, and kept chasing, right into their own graves. Here, after each charge hit home, Richard hauled them back. Reform, hold, do not pursue, then charge again. He fired the weapon, caught it, and fired it a second time, and a third. Struck on both flanks and through the middle, hit not once but 3 times by a cavalry that kept reappearing in perfect order. Saladin's army came apart. His men fell back to the wooded hills above Arsuf and left the plain behind them, 7,000 dead in the dust, 32 of his emirs among them. Richard walked his army into the city that evening. On the day, it was a masterpiece. The one time in the whole crusade that Saladin's trap was turned inside out. Richard had done what no crusader commander had managed in years. He had beaten Saladin in open battle, and it won him almost nothing. The next morning, Saladin's army was back, not destroyed, bruised but whole. He had not lost on purpose, but he had refused to turn a lost field into a destroyed army, and by keeping it alive, he kept the only thing that mattered. Richard wanted Jerusalem, but to besiege a city, you have to sit still in front of it, and you cannot sit still with an undestroyed enemy army at your back, ready to fall on you. As long as Saladin's host existed, Jerusalem was untouchable, and after Arsuf, it still existed. Richard would come within sight of the holy city. He would never take it. In the end, the 2 men signed a reluctant truce. The Crusaders kept the coast. Christian pilgrims were allowed to visit Jerusalem, and Jerusalem stayed in Saladin's hands. So the man who won the battle lost the war's one prize, and the man who lost the field kept the kingdom. The men on foot had taken a whole day of arrows, so the horses never would, and the line never broke. They had done everything right. Arsuf, the perfect victory, still wasn't enough.